what you actually can do with artificial intelligence to strengthen your fundraising. Hi, I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. This is the first day from the Fundraising School, and I'm joined today by Chris Strom. Chris is the Chief Marketing Officer for Sunrise Association, and I had a chance to see him at the Raise Conference in 2025, which, by the way, if you haven't had a chance to go, I hope you do have an opportunity someday. We're fortunate to attend and participate in so many conferences. They're all good. And the one thing from Raise that stood out was the high level of practical application that they insist on in their workshops, including the workshop that I saw led by Chris. And Chris, thanks for being with us on the Fundraising Schools podcast.
Bill, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you are a wizard when it comes to AI and fundraising. I noticed that firsthand. So I do want to start with, even in the fundraising school, even now, 4 years later, after the launch of ChatGPT, we still get hands up saying it's wrong all the time. It's wrong often. I'm worried about my data being stolen. I often talk about, one national reporter who I really enjoy, Mateo Wong in the Atlantic, said, name me something else that's wrong 1/3 of the time after it's been around for 4 years. Would you step on the airplane if they said that? Mm-hmm. No, we wouldn't, right? And yet we're all crazy about artificial intelligence. What is your perspective on that in terms of, how valuable this tool is, with what cautions we need to have as we use AI when we fundraise?
Bill, you're absolutely right. The technology, the first time I used this technology, I don't know if you had this feeling. It was just a magical experience. Be able to prompt and get this unbelievable response that was absolutely imbued with intelligence. It wasn't just an autocomplete, as a lot of people are calling it. And yeah, behind the scenes, there's a lot of technology that has that autocomplete kind of mentality. But what I would say is that, yes, it is wrong. When you're working with these AI systems, you have to understand that going in, that it's going to be wrong a good amount of the time. The latest models that are being released by the frontier labs are really starting to dig into this problem of hallucinations. And I think it's getting a lot better than where it was a year ago or 2 years ago. But if you're going to use any of these for copy on your website, or if you are drafting letters to donors, you do not want to be copying and pasting this. You want to use this as a partner and be double checking. Understand that this is a partner to work with, not a, hey, this is going to go and do my work for me type of solution.
Yeah, I appreciate all of that comment, including how you concluded, because, some of the leaders in the industry, I've seen the word used for them that they are techno-utopians. And, the world's going to be perfect and it's going to solve all of these problems, as opposed to that it's a tool to utilize. And just like we're careful with our rotator saw, we're going to be careful with AI. Or we're going to be careful with our stove. We're going to be careful with AI. And Chris, I'd like to ask you, before we take a dive into some examples of practical ways you're using AI, again, for some of those folks who might be newer to this tool, you were working for a long time as a successful professional before AI. And now here you are, you have significant expertise in AI. What's the before and after? How did you get from there to here?
That's a great question, Bill. So, going way, way, way back, I have you can see my old Mac Classic back there that I was using decades ago. I've always been enthralled with technology. I've always been a huge fan of change and seeing what comes next. And so I started my career as a digital marketer, and it was always kind of on the cutting edge of what was new in technology in the intersection of marketing. And over the 20 plus years that I've spent in nonprofit and the professional world, I gained an expertise. And when I had that moment with ChatGPT a couple of years ago, I knew that things were going to change, that having this intelligence at our fingertips and being able to augment my intelligence as opposed to just using artificial intelligence, but augmenting all this expertise I gained over my decades as a professional. This is just a game-changing moment. And so I threw myself in head first, and I just was did as much research as I could, played around with all of these tools, and I really started to understand again that it's, yes, artificial intelligence, but it's really, how do I multiply myself? How do I take my expertise, imbue it into these tools so that I can 2x, 3x, 10x my output? So yeah, I'm totally self-taught, threw myself into it, and I'm a practitioner. I use these tools day in and day out.
And so I saw great evidence of that in your workshop presentation. And I really appreciate your answer that we're using artificial intelligence. If I can summarize, we're using artificial intelligence to strengthen and expand our actual intelligence, right? It's not replacing us. And by the way, we do hear that a lot, folks being concerned. And there are some industries where we're seeing potential job loss. But, if artificial intelligence, Chris, is, doing a lot of tasks for us and freeing up some time, first of all, I've been in the sector 30 years. I've yet to meet the nonprofit that says, you know what, we just have so much time on our hands and not enough work to do. It's the exact opposite. So it's going to help us get to that to-do list with the staff constraints that we have. Second of all, it frees us up to spend more time with donors. And even if we ever get to holograms, Princess Leia coming out of, the robot, the droid, it's still not going to be a real person. And so these are some of the big picture benefits we see with AI and fundraising.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the less time that we spend in front of a screen and more interacting with our supporters, our donors, people that are supporting our cause and getting that face time, that's where fundraisers need to be. Not noodling around with formatting of documents or knee-deep in spreadsheets. They need to be out on the front lines, actually talking, nurturing, and stewarding the donors that support our nonprofits.
All right. I need to put you in the role of that, movie star who needs to talk about the movie, but can't discuss the whole 2-hour movie. You need to ask you for some highlights because, again, I saw a 90-minute workshop with lots of practical application. So I guess I just want to ask you, what are some of the biggest ahas? Boy, that's just so cool. Or I saved so much time doing that. Or I hated doing that. Now AI does it for me. Are there a couple, three, Chris, that really stand out that show the power of AI that has strengthened your fundraising and your marketing at Sunrise?
Absolutely, Bill. So let me kind of start with the basics. I think a lot of people come to these tools and they may treat it like a Google search or a technology that came before these iterative ChatGPT type tools. And so the first big unlock for me was learning how to prompt correctly. And so, if you go to these tools expecting to just type in a question and use it like Google, you're not going to get really the full power out of this. It's like having a huge, construction piece of equipment and just using it to go to the other site, other part of the job site. To really get the full functionality, you need to understand the capabilities and how to properly prompt. So, using this framework called CRAFT that I shared at the presentation, I share it with other trainings that I do, stands for context. So are you giving these LLMs the proper amount of context on who you are, what situation you're in, what your business is, what the donor's information is, et cetera? Are you giving it the proper role, saying, I am a chief marketing officer for a nonprofit, or I am a development executive that is looking to recruit people for my event, whatever that use case may be. CRA, what is the action that you're actually asking the LLM to take? And this is just really simple steps as to what are you looking to get out of this prompt that you give a tool like ChatGPT. F is the format. Are we looking for a quick 1-paragraph email? Are we looking for a presentation or a report? Are we looking for a limerick that we can text to a donor? What is that actual format? And then the tone. craft, the last is tone, T for tone. And what we're looking there is, are we imbuing this content that we're generating with our brand? Does it use our brand attributes? Does it sound like me, or does it sound like any other vanilla GBT output? Are we actually putting our stamp, our uniqueness on that content? So using that framework has been a game changer in being able to do this. And just like you would if you were a master chef, you start to sprinkle in a little more context here, or mess around with tone and format here, and you can kind of really just jam with the tool once you get comfortable with it. But I think that in and itself, such a big unlock. And Bill, if I could just share one more,
Yes.
is using AI as a second brain has been huge. I think, just as you mentioned, that we don't have the ability to get to everything that we want to in our nonprofit jobs. I don't retain a ton of information after sitting in on a meeting or after listening to a webinar, whatever it may be. And studies show that most people that are listening either to this podcast or to a presentation will only retain a sliver of it. So I use a tool. There's a lot of them on the market. I use one called MacWhisper, which is a piece of software that sits on my Mac, and I could record a Zoom session or a meeting that I have, or any other piece of content. I get that transcription then using AI, using this MacWhisper, and I'm able to use a tool like ChatGPT with really great prompts to get my meeting notes, or to be able to take one step further and summarize that conversation, or get next action steps. So I think this is, in and of itself, such a huge time saver to be able to use these AI tools to transcribe these meetings or any other kind of interaction you're having, and understand the next steps, what the summary is, and really be able to kind of play with the foundation of that transcript to get done whatever you need to get done.
Chris, the example that you cited with craft, I love that, because so often people say, well, just do your prompting, just prompt well, prompt specifically. That's like telling me, well, just make sure you fertilize the grass the right way. What does that mean? Like what kind, and what nutrients, and what's the combination? And for you to break it down in craft, gives us a very practical way to hold on to that. I'd like to ask you for an example, either the way your marketing has been strengthened, particular donor relationship, not asking you to name any names, foundation relationship. Can you give our audience an example of, yes, using these AI tools? And again, for our audience, craft is just one of many examples that Chris gave us at the workshop in San Antonio. But does anything stand out in particular, like, see, I'm doing that better, doing that more, and helped with the relationship, maybe led to a new gift because of how I'm utilizing AI with my fundraising?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, from the marketing end, my ability to customize content or customize my messages has been helped unbelievably. So I have a series of prompts that I have in a library. I use this, I build custom GPTs on top of ChatGPT. And for the listeners or the watchers that might not know what that is within ChatGPT, you're able to store really complex prompts with knowledge. So it might be my brand guidelines, or it might be my strategic roadmap for my organization, whatever it may be. And then I can access these custom GPTs with a link, and I enable my entire team to be able to do this, so that we basically have this AI marketing or fundraising assistant at our beck and call. And I'm able to say, so here's a good example for you, Bill. We have a budding parent association where we are doing outreach to the families that we serve at Sunrise. And we have a very particular tone and voice that we use for this group. And we have a certain context of background information that we approach them with. And so all of this is loaded into my custom GPTs, and I can enable and empower my team to use these prompts so they're not second guessing on, did I use the right brand voice with this? Or did I get my numbers wrong when I was citing how many kids did we send to our summer camp this past summer? Or did I fumble the exact wording of the mission, so that they can just get right to the point and have all of that right at their fingertips? That's a really good concrete example. So I specifically have a marketing assistant, this custom GPT for my team to use when talking to this audience.
Chris, I love that. A prompt library that includes a knowledge library, if you will, and a little bit of work in setting it up. But like anything else, you set it up right the first time. Now it's there to be utilized and can be adapted and revised as time goes along. Chris, one comment here that I'd like to conclude on. How important is it in your view for nonprofits to purchase the subscription versions of these various AI tools? And at the fundraising school, we teach strongly, fundraisers need to advocate for the tools that they need. You need to include this in your fundraising budget. You need to lead up to the CEO, the CFO, the board on why this is important. Can I get what I need with the off-the-shelf models, or what do you think about purchasing the subscriptions?
It's a great question, Bill. So I shared in the presentation, I spend a lot on these AI tools. It's not necessary, but as a practitioner, as a fan, I want to see what's out there, and I want to stretch these models to their limits to understand what's possible. Do fundraisers need to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on these tools to get the most out of them? Absolutely not. The reason, though, I would advocate for paying for particular tools is privacy concerns.
Yeah.
You have to really look carefully, especially at a tool like ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude or Google Gemini. On these free versions, they will train off of the chats that you're having back and forth. So unless you're on an enterprise version or a Teams version and you specifically say, don't train on my conversations, the conversations that you're having with these tools, that data may be included in the larger training set. I haven't had that necessarily happen to me, but I would never want to share any sensitive data about donors or supporters or my organization and have that accidentally be included in the training data and somehow pop up in somebody else's prompt. So that's a huge vote for understanding these tools, especially when deploying them with your team, understanding the cons and the pros with some of these. But I figure a $20 a month plan is saving me hours every single day. And the ROI on that is huge for me and my team.
Yeah, that is well advocated for, Chris. And I've been persuaded by the perspective on technology. And this actually goes back to the mid-19th century with the advent of the telegraph. And you go through the telephone and the radio and the television and all these different technological advances. At first, they are seen as annoying. Next, they're seen as amusing. And then they become indispensable. And there's a lot of evidence in each of those technology tools I've mentioned. And that's, I think, where we are with AI. At first it's like, what the heck is this? And it's wrong. It tells Bill Stan 3 colleges he never ever went to. What a mess. And then, some silly things come up and it's amusing. And now it's starting to become indispensable. And if it's indispensable, then is it worth purchasing the subscription version? And, for no other reason, as Chris mentioned, the privacy protection, still keep things anonymous that you're worried about. Absolutely, 1,000%. But the subscription version puts up another wall of protection when we're putting information into our AI tool. Chris, you've given us so much information. I always just want to ask, anything else, final words of advice, final cautions that you think nonprofits need to know as they're either using this already, and some of them are advanced users, and some of them are just getting started?
Absolutely, Bill. I would say that it's still early innings. I mean, ChatGPT, we're coming up on the, I believe, third anniversary in November of when it was released. And, we're still in the bottom of the first, to use a baseball analogy here. And there's so much more coming, and so many more superpowers that I think fundraisers, marketers, nonprofit professionals will be empowered with these tools. And my one piece of advice is just think of a task that you're doing in front of a computer today and say, hey, you know what? Let me pull up ChatGPT, or let me pull up Gemini, or Anthropic's Claude, whatever your LLM of choice is, and see, maybe I'll see if AI can assist me with this and can kind of augment my expertise and my intelligence, and just give it a try. Again, your best advice I can give is experiment, try, and build this capability. It's going to pay dividends in the future, I believe.
Chris Strom is the Chief Marketing Officer at Sunrise Associates, a longtime digital marketing expert who now is self-taught and teaching us on AI and fundraising. Chris, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Bill. Appreciate it.
And at the Fundraising School, one of our 27 courses is on AI and fundraising, and we're continuing to build our curriculum in that regard. So keep an eye on our course menu list. And in the meantime, our curriculum design folks, Dustin Donovan and Molly Gross, they are actually embedding AI into each of our courses. So it's not just the standalone course, which is very helpful, but as different topics come up within the rest of the courses, we're saying, is there an AI for that? Is there a way we can use AI to help that? So this is becoming just central to who we are at the Fundraising School. Those courses, by the way, you can take them in person in 10 U.S. cities in the continental U.S., online anywhere around the world, either recorded or live. They lead to 5 different certificates, can be designed into custom training just for your nonprofit or your association. We also have our quarterly webinars, these weekly podcasts, and our textbook, Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, the book now out in its 5th edition. Find all of this online at go.iu.edu/TFRS. Probably enter a prompt into AI as I think about that. Go.iu.edu/TFRS. Grateful for our producers today, Molly Gross, as well as Mike Anthony. I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz, and now you are now more fully informed on this first day from the Fundraising School.